You are watching Access LaPorte County, Channel 97. Coming up next, the April 27th meeting of the Michigan City Sanitary Board. You can find more information for this meeting by visiting www.accesslaportecounty.org.
It's 4 o'clock there, so I'd like to call the monthly board meeting of the Sanitary District Commissioners to order, and the Wednesday, April 27th, 2022. First order of business, I want to do a roll call. Holt Edinger.
Present.
Tim Warner.
Present.
Chris Yagowski.
Present.
And Tim Smith, present. Second thing, Chris, I'd like to welcome you to the board. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We welcome you and thank you for jumping on board with us. So, I think you've got your packets and everything, so you should be all good. So, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
I want to ask for approval, ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the regular board meeting of Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, Holt Edinger?
Aye.
Tim Warner?
Aye.
Chris Yagowski?
Aye.
And Tim Smith? Aye. Jim, point of clarification. Do I have to, because I'm not there, have a roll call vote?
Yes, there has to be a roll call vote on all votes. Everything.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Thanks, Tim.
So, yeah, I know. All right, guys. So I don't see Dan McCoy, but Dan, are you there?
He's there. He's there.
Keep your report. Hi, Dan.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Mr. Smith, point of order. Do we want to ask for public comment first? Item 4 on the agenda.
Oh, I am sorry, yes. I apologize. Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Any public comment? You guys can see better than I can, but seeing none, the public comment
They'll wait until you get here.
is closed. You're going to be there a long time.
All right. Then we'll skip it for now.
Okay. Dan, please go ahead.
Thank you. In April, we had one recordable injury in water reclamation, 2 recordable injuries during the month in the refuse department. And to summarize those just a little bit, the injury that occurred in water reclamation, an employee was removing pieces of concrete on a street project, and his colleague that was working with him was using a concrete breaking bar, and there was a lack of communication right there, and so the employee should have zigged when he should have zagged, and he was in the way of when the bar struck the concrete, and so that resulted in an injury to his left 5th digit, which is the pinky finger. And basically what we covered there, we covered with both employees the importance of communicating. We also stressed that in the morning meetings about communicating with one another and making sure that also that we stay focused on tasks. There are a number of factors that could have, caused a person to be distracted, but in a situation like this, but that's what we did in that case to prevent reoccurrence. And looking at the refuse cases, we had another eye injury. When we say eye injury, it sounds like something really, really serious, but in both these cases we've had, it's a matter of dust in the eye, dust in his eye. And it occurred when he was dumping leaves during spring cleanup, and some dust was blowing in his direction. He was wearing safety glasses, but it did make it into his eye, into his right eye. So what we emphasize, and yesterday I had a new employee orientation, and I use this case to bring out the importance of reporting injuries, no matter how minor the injury might be. And I use this as an example. The individual flushed out his eye with water. He had some clean water from an unopened water bottle, which is what we tell them to do, flush it out. But then report that immediately to your foreman. And so he was taken to working well. And they did note that there was some dust in his eye, and they removed that. So what I emphasized yesterday to the new employee was, if that individual said, well, I can just live with it, I'll get through with it, and I'll try and work it out, it's not going to get any better. It's going to get worse, and it can lead to an infection. And then we're talking about something that's more serious. And so it's better to do something like this, to report it, to take care of it quickly. And so the employee was back to work in one day. He was on restricted work activity, went back for a checkup, everything's fine, went back to work. But we talked to that individual about wearing the safety glasses and wearing them properly, and trying to turn your head when the dust is blowing in your direction. But that's basically what was covered there. And then the next injury was an employee was lifting or moving a toter, and he twisted. It was early in his shift, and the employee felt like maybe he didn't warm up enough beforehand, which caused a strain to his back. He was on restricted work activity for 11 days and then returned right back to work. What we have in refuse, that's a common type of injury, and so what we're looking at is actually contacting our worker. We contacted the workers' comp company that looks after our claims, and we're trying to get someone to come in and talk to our employees about, proper lifting, stretching techniques before they work. We actually had an employee during one of our meetings that we had with the refuse department that talked about that, he went through a similar occurrence last year. He went to physical therapy. They mentioned to him about what he should do in the way of stretch and flex, even during the workday, and he's been doing that. So he provided testimony to the benefits of doing stretching and flexing before going out on a job and during the shift. So that's something we're looking into. Can we promote that, encourage people to stretch and flex? Also proper nutrition, within that group. So those are some of the areas we're looking at to prevent recurrence. And on the next couple pages of the packet, the general manager and I, Mike and I, have had a number of conversations with EPA Region 5 regarding some of the recommendations for improvement from our discussion from last month's meeting. And we've had a number of conversations with them, and also some email exchanges. They've all been very positive suggestions on how we move forward on the areas of improvement that we need to make with our disinfection system. And I feel like we're well on track with that, and we're moving forward as I've described here in about a page and a half of this report. And then a couple other activities. One thing that Mr. Harris mentioned 2 meetings ago was to look at some of our safety objectives, and that's something that we're taking a look at the general manager and I, Mike, and also Steve Stanford, visited the refuse department, and we set out a goal for them to complete all their waste industry training online modules, and they completed that at 100%. And they did quite well on that. And so we wanted to recognize that. We did that during a safety training session. We combined some training, and also we had some recognition on that excellent performance. So we set an objective, we reached the objective, we celebrated reaching that objective with pizza, while we had our safety meeting and safety training. So this, building on what Frank mentioned a couple meetings ago, these are some of the things that we're doing in that regard. And then last but not least, working with the city's fire department training officer on the particular techniques of firefighting related to CNG, compressed natural gas fires. And that's something that would be an extremely rare occurrence with our systems, the way that we use them, but we need to be prepared. Today, firefighters have quite a challenge with all the alternate fuels that are being used, including batteries and hybrid vehicles of all types. And so there's quite a bit that they have to know in a way of knowledge, and we want them to be able to share some of that knowledge with our refuse drivers and others in our sanitary district organization that operates CNG vehicles, to tell us what we need to do in the way of an emergency action plan. What is it we need to do to notify them, to say if we do have an occurrence where we have a small fire or something like that, what are some of the actions we need to take as operators of that equipment as we notify them on 911. And then one item that is particularly important, we will certainly let them know that if there is an occurrence like that, a fire of some type, and if it involves a CNG vehicle, then we would let the 911 dispatcher know that, so that the responders will be able to have their tactics and strategy in place en route, without being surprised when they get there. So, we're working together with the fire department. We'll have probably a tabletop exercise with the refuse department initially, sometime here in the summer. So that concludes kind of an overview of the work we've done in the past month. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions from any of the commissioners?
No.
Yeah, it was a really thorough report. Thank you very much. And seeing that there's no question, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Scott, did I understand that, so are there any quotes or bids on the parking lot lighting at Struble Pond?
Yes, Commissioner, we received one by email.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So we'll open up the bid for the Struble Pond lighting parking lot.
Okay, so this is from Marquis Electric.
They're in Michigan City, Indiana.
In Michigan City, Indiana. The project cost, start date, and the project duration form. This indicates quote for all labor and materials for and all other costs incidental to the installation of parking lot lighting at Strebo Pond, Michigan City, Indiana. $8,040.
And how many lights is that, Mike?
Looking here,
It would be one pole for each parking lot, north and south.
yes.
So what I'd like to do with that is I'd like it to staff review it, please, if the commissioners are okay with that. Are there any questions from the commissioners, first of all?
Yeah, do we have an idea of what the cost of maintaining and keeping this light on for the duration? Is it going to be on all night, dawn to dusk, dusk to dawn? What's the, do we have any of that? Is that included in the proposal? Can we get that from them? Based on what our rates are with NIPSCO for what it's going to cost us to maintain that light?
Commissioner, I believe that the spec was to have that on all night. And I think each light head is about 80 watts.
How's that convert to kilowatt hour cost? Do we know?
8 times 8 would be 64. It's probably going to cost about $10 a month for electricity.
It's nothing, basically. Yeah. Thank you.
So what I'd like, Holter or Mark, do you have any, or Chris, do you have any questions at all?
No, I think it's a good idea.
Okay. So I'd like staff to review it. It's one pole. Is that going to, my question would be, is that adequate for those two parking lots to be lit? That would be my concern. Do we need to go more than one of those poles, or anyone from staff?
I would say this, Commissioner, that Mr. Gorsuch and Mr. Presbolinski looked that site over in person,
Okay.
and that was their consensus.
Okay, thanks, Steve. So I guess if there's no other objection, like we do with these bids, let staff look it over and bring us back a recommendation next meeting. Is that okay with the commissioners?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so Mike and whoever else that you want to have look at the contract, Jim, can you bring it back and just, let us know next meeting what your thoughts are on the contract, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. The next item under bids is Long Beach Sewer Extension, but we're going to have a special meeting, and I think the public notice went out on that, for this coming Friday at 4 p.m. At in the conference room at the Sanitary District, correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we'll move on. Scott, can we move on to the financial report, please?
Good afternoon.
Hey.
Great. Before I start, the White Sox actually won today. 7-3. Yeah, it only took 8 games.
Only we. That's the last win with the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the Cubs are there too.
Yeah, I know. Crosstown Classic is coming.
And, yeah,
Battle for the basement.
yeah.
All right. I'll start by reading the cash balances. The operating fund had a balance of $1,208,992.38. And I apologize, this is all as of March 31st, 2022. The Horizon Municipal had $770.20. Improvement Fund had $884,000. $371.47. Vehicle replacement had $104,464.04. Equipment replacement fund had $596,245.26, for a total in the Horizon Operating Fund bank account of $2,794,843.35. The Indian Springs project and Whippoorwill project had no balances. We made the quarterly payment to the SRF for those two. The SRF debt reserve had $499,659.31, and the SRF bond and interest had $90,062.23, for a total at BNY Mellon of $589,721.54. The Stormwater Fund had $677,347.58. The Municipal Refuse Municipal had $10.40, and the Refuse Fund had $1,039,127.02. Special Revenue had $3,203.79. The levy excess had $8,522.14. The tax levy grant fund had $137,726.54, and the rainy day fund had no balance, for a total in that bank account of $1,865,937.47. So the subtotal before the Carwick Remediation Fund had $5,250,502.36. The Carwick Remediation Fund had $238,380.42, for a total cash balance of $5,488,882.78. Just a few notes. The very first line, the operating fund, it was down to the prior year and the previous month. That was the insurance renewal I told you guys about last month, and that was roughly $200,000 of that decrease. And the rest are like the normal monthly transfers. In the refuse account towards the bottom, it was down. It usually decreases about $170,000 a month. It actually went down a little bit more because, again, that was insurance renewal on the refuse trucks. And that's really about it, unless anybody has any questions. Okay.
Any questions? Paul, do you have any questions?
What was that insurance payment on refuse?
It's like roughly $40,000 on refuse. It's $200,000 on operating.
2 or 3 years.
And then it's like 40 odd on the garbage trucks.
Thank you.
Yep. So if there's no other questions, I'll go on. The next page I put in, this was something I did at year end, and Commissioner Smith asked if I could do it on a quarterly basis. And what this is a summary comparing the first quarter this year to the first quarter last year for the three main funds we have and the expenditures that we had, well, revenue and expenditures that we had. So you can look at this. Again, that insurance, other services and charges under the operating fund, we're like $250,000 higher this quarter. Again, $200,000 of that's the insurance payment that was made in March as opposed to April last year. And really, everything else is tracking pretty close to where we were last year. And since we don't budget on a monthly or quarterly basis, I thought it was better to kind of compare it to the actual expenses year on year for the quarter. And the only other thing in stormwater, that other services and charges, that's kind of that relates to the contract we have with the Delta Institute, and we pared back on our Blue Swag contract. You guys saw that, so that's why it's those expenses are down. So anyways, I'll answer any questions if anybody has any questions on it.
Any other questions, guys? Okay.
And then the next three things in the packet all are the backup to that page. So that's the current year first quarter for the operating fund, the refuse fund, and the stormwater, and they're all tracking pretty close.
See, Scott, you're gonna look like a genius next quarter because you're not gonna have that insurance payment like that.
Well, no, but we have other things.
Yeah, I know.
Don't get me started. We have other things. The next thing, every year we enter into an agreement with Potawatomi Park, and they take their leaves to our Hitchcock facility. And I would just ask the board to approve this. They pay us $750 a year to drop their leaves off at Hitchcock, and I would just ask the board to approve it. It's up from 500. 2 years ago it was 500.
Yeah.
Last year was 750.
Any questions on that, guys? If there's not, I'll look for a motion to pass resolution number 1452-22, to transfer ownership of the lease back between.
No,
Robert.
You're jumping
It's
the
an
gun.
agreement.
Yeah, the agreement of the leaf disposal with Potawatomi Park.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, Holt Edgar,
Aye.
Tim Warner,
Aye.
Chris Yagowski,
Aye.
and Tim Smith, aye. Motion passes. Okay, Scott, can you make a resolution now, please?
Yep, the next one is the resolution. What's happened over the last few years, we used to operate the leaf leaf debris collectors, and now the street department is doing that service for the city. We still have the four leaf vac machines, and we'd like to transfer those to street. It just makes sense to move them. We're not using them, they're using them, and it just makes sense for them to just take ownership. And each of these machines costs roughly $51,000, and they were going to be depreciated over 10 years, and they were bought 2015, the end of, and the early part of 2016, so they're halfway depreciated. So it's like 51,000 each, and then we've depreciated about 30,000 on them.
And they were purchased by Riverboat funds, weren't they?
I believe so. I've been trying to track that down. It was before I got here, but I think they were Riverboat. I'm pretty sure they were.
That was so stated by the mayor,
Yeah.
department should be.
Yeah.
And it just makes sense, because then they can maintain them. Because what's happening is, we're not using them, but we're kind of maintaining them. And it just makes sense for the people that are using them firsthand would maintain them. So, it just makes sense to me to let them take over the ownership. And it's a sunk cost, and like you said, it's probably Riverboat.
If we transfer them over to streets and sand, where does the depreciation go? Does that come off of our books, so we're not depreciating anymore?
Yes, I talked to the controller's office today.
Okay.
And we're going to transfer both the cost and the depreciation to the city, and then they'll start depreciating these assets on their books. Because in 2021, State Board of Accounts actually wants everybody to list their assets. It's the first year that they wanted that. So I talked to the controller's office, and we'll transfer these to them. And the other nice thing is, since it's April, the controller's office will have time to put this into their budget for street to maintain these things. So, I mean, if this would happen in July or August, they would have been stuck. But now they know that they're gonna take over ownership, so they can get it in their budgets. So it's kinda good to do it now.
Are they actually housed there also at this?
While we're housing them here, we're talking about that. We probably will, if they don't have the room over at Central, we'll keep them here. And they
Who
can just,
maintains them then?
they will maintain them,
Okay.
but we can store them here. We got a lot of space over at the Seneca property, so.
The important thing is that not only does Scott request this, the mayor requests it. So my recommendation, for all the reasons Scott has mentioned, in addition to the fact that the mayor has requested it and determined that only the street department will be handling the leaf pickup, not the sanitary district anymore, that the board approve it.
Thank you.
So we don't need any signatures from the street department indicating they're accepting maintenance and everything too?
We're both city nepartments.
So
Or not, neither, none of us are.
it's just moving the keys from one
Yeah.
board to the other.
And the title.
I just wanted to make sure that if they were off our books, they're completely off of our books.
Yes, yeah.
So,
And just so the board knows, there is another piece of equipment that will probably come to you next month about, and it's a dump truck that is currently not being operated, that street department would like to have. And it's not usable right
I was
now.
gonna say, it's not only not operating, it's not operable.
Yes, but street thinks they can make it, so I'll probably be back next month.
Next
with
month,
that
we can
one.
tow it out of here and get it out of here.
Well, it's already over there. It's a planner.
all right.
All right.
Can I get a motion to approve resolution number 1452-22, transfer of ownership of the leaf back machine to the Michigan City Street Department?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor, Holt Henninger,
Aye.
Tim Warner,
Aye.
Chris Yagowski,
Aye.
Tim Smith, aye. Okay,
Mr. Meyer.
Scott, are we done?
We're done unless anybody has any questions.
Do they need to sign that now?
I think we're good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Scott takes care of getting everything signed after the meeting.
Okay, moving on, again, the Long Beach Sanitary Sewer Project. I mean, is there someone from Haas that wants to give an update, or are we just gonna move past item 9? Okay. Let's go to item 10, updated projects. Mike and Steve, I'm gonna turn this over to you guys.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. If Steve can kick us off on this.
The White Ditch cleaning project is on schedule. The trees were dropped according to the Indiana bat schedule. HRP is going to install the new ditch culvert starting next week. This project, much like Cheney Run and Carwick Road, has a habitat restoration component to it. And Weaver Consultants Group wrote permit applications for this project. They basically designed the project in terms of habitat restoration. And so I requested them to prepare a proposal to do the first year of the habitat restoration monitoring. And I have this PSA in your board packet. Its value is $11,693. I'd like to ask the board's approval to enter into this service agreement with Weaver Consultants Group.
Can I ask where the White Ditch is located?
This would be 90 degrees to Fryer Road on the south side, all the way down past Sandon Industries retention pond.
Any questions on the approval, the motion that's out there with approving Weaver Consultants?
Just a question I had on page 4 of their Exhibit A. At the very top line, it talks about, the reports that are going to be done. The top line says monthly or annual maintenance logs and records of mitigation. Is that monthly and annual?
It is.
Okay, so that or should be and. That's
Well,
kind of
Tim,
what
at least it's not quarter hours.
I got a comment about that coming up too.
All right, can I please get a motion, anything else, guys? If not, can I please get a motion to approve the contract with Weaver Consulting, please, for White Ditch?
Move to approve the professional service agreement with Weaver Consultants Group.
Can I get a second, please? Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor, Holt Edinger,
Aye.
Tim Warner,
Aye.
Chris Yagowski,
Aye.
and Tim Smith, aye. Motion passes. Go ahead, Steve, keep going.
Yes, US Highway 12, Custer Avenue and Francisco Street intersection stormwater drainage improvement project. This is one of the ones that we got $62,000 in grant money to help pay for the project. John Doyle completed the design on April 11th. Mr. John Gorsica prepared an RFQ based on Mr. Doyle's designs. I have not yet reviewed that, but after it's reviewed and finalized, I'd like to put that out on the street for quotes for next month's meeting.
Okay? I don't think that requires any action from the board, Steve, so thank you.
Don't believe it does. Regarding the wastewater treatment plant upgrades, item I, the automatic voltage equalizers for the blower building and the filter building are both installed and in service. I believe Mr. Milatovic wants to discuss the filter building control system upgrade project.
Yes, thank you, Steve, I do. And I don't know if the board members have had opportunity to look over the proposal from Westech, which is the company that bought out General Filter that was the original designer and installer. And the sum or the cost for this project that they state here is $199,930. The one thing I would like to bring to your attention is that we have known that the system is in need of some upgrade because for some time now, principally because of the fact that the system in place is essentially obsolete, and it's very difficult and sometimes impossible to get replacement components. Our staff, Andy Metanik, has done a great job of scouring the internet, eBay, and so forth to collect components that he's been able to apply and keep us operational. We have just been discussing this and the costs and so forth, which is in some sense substantial as far as the installation of the equipment and so forth. But the company that is submitting this proposal is intimately familiar with the system, and therefore I believe would be able to immediately move on making the upgrade at the cost where someone else, there are other companies which we can look at that may have capabilities, but as I was discussing it with Mr. Metanik, as far as knowing the ladder logic and other aspects, which I'm not, this is not my forte, but I know enough to understand that there is proprietorial knowledge that I'm sure the company is not going to share with any other contractor. And the reason it came to light very dramatically is that last week, at the end of last week, we had a failure. Thankfully, we were able to once again, we ended up having to direct flow to our storm basin so that there would be no issue of violations as far as bypassing a treatment process. And we were able to get, our staff was able to reactivate the system, albeit now in a strictly manual operating mode. So we are able to continue to operate and function, operate the tertiary sand filter system, meeting our permit requirements and so forth. But we are on the, not to be overly dramatic, but on the precipice of a catastrophic failure, because I think one thing that has to be kept in mind, as I understand it, that it's not a mechanical issue as far as that, well, if all fails, we could do it manually. Manually just means that we manually activate the switches, but it also has to go through the PLC. So if that system fails, we will not be able to operate it in any fashion, is the way it's explained to me. But so there's a sense of urgency. What I am asking the board to, if we're not in a position to act on this right at this moment, that by the next board meeting, we do a complete assessment as we can and explore possibilities of another contractor being involved. But I would say that I urge the board to not wait past the next board meeting to authorize proceeding on this. I don't know, Steve, do you have any feelings about this, any comments?
We have 8 separate Slick 100 PLCs that date back to the 1980s, but still work. Don't know how much longer they're going to work. And we have a pair of Slick 502s from the 1990s. We can't get replacement parts for these things. We cannot replace these controllers. We don't have the proprietary programming to operate them, even if we did. We can't even connect a computer with these PLCs. They're so old now.
You can't pull a 5 1/4-inch drive out and put it in the computer.
Scott, did we budget for this kind of,
We can use the improvement fund, I believe, and we have roughly $900,000 there. And
If I use
for
the
these
equipment replacement fund, it's
Okay.
closer to equipment than it is to sewer.
and is the proprietary knowledge,
and we have money there.
okay, thank you. Is the proprietary knowledge enough to have us bypass getting other quotes?
Well, let me ask some questions. I spoke to Neil about this before, but my understanding is that the brand of the current equipment is called General Filter. It was put in 20 years ago or 30 or whatever it is. Then West Tech basically bought General Filter. West Tech now is the sole source for purchasing General Filter. Thus, they also have, of course, the intellectual property rights and all that, and all the knowledge about how to implement. I don't know, and I don't know if you reviewed this carefully, but why would anybody else be able, I mean, unless you take out the whole system, you have other General Filter equipment, communication equipment, I guess it might be called, in the plant, as I understand it.
I'm not sure about that.
I don't believe we do.
Okay, but I mean, you explained to me that you thought it was a very good idea to have this sole source from these folks, because they're the ones
Yes.
who put in. So you either have to
Yes.
get a whole different system
Okay.
through another, right?
Yes.
Through another company to come in and put it in, or you gotta have this system replaced in kind, so to speak.
Yes.
With, okay.
Yes, that's correct. And one thing, at last conversation, one of the persons that was involved in the installation of the last go-around is still with the company. So I do see that as a valuable inherent benefit to us, that they're very familiar with the ins and outs of the system, and it'll be as good as it can be once they refurbish it.
And when you said by the next board meeting, do you mean a special meeting on Friday? Or do you mean a month from now?
Well,
Because you only have 2 days, there's no way you're going to
right, no,
check out a new system.
I was referring to the next scheduled board meeting.
And just so the board knows, most of the cost is programming. So, I mean, there's other alternatives too.
There's
You could look at hiring a
Well, Scott, if there's other alternatives, I mean,
Well, that's why we're looking at it.
yeah. So I think, you know, maybe we don't want to go past the next board meeting, but, you know, Holt and the other commissioners, Tim and Chris, you guys want the staff to go out and see if they can source this somewhere else?
If that makes sense, I mean, is there an
Just
alternative?
why it's descriptive, you don't have much of a choice here.
I don't think
Yeah.
so, but
Doesn't seem like we have much of a
consult with
choice.
Scott and see what, he's got some leads.
Can they bring back at the next, I'm sorry to interject, but can they bring back more of an inclusive proposal? I mean, seems like they're missing quite a bit here as far as transportation, time, tax, costs, computer scheduling. So it seems like this might escalate from 199 to a lot more.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm concerned with, looking at the terms and conditions. I mean, the proposal says that field installation of the panel components is included. You look at their terms and conditions, the specifications clearly say that the equipment may not be in strict compliance with the engineer's owner plans or addendum. There may be deviations. Well, that's what they're supposed to provide, I thought. The very next item says the proposal includes only the equipment specified and does not include erection and installation or accessories. So that's just the first two terms. You get to item 9, and they say, purchaser sell at its sole expense, furnish all necessary labor, equipment, and materials needed for installation. So these terms and conditions need to be reviewed by them to kind of balance with what they're proposing as well. This looks like it can leave us with a handful, as well as prices quoted for equipment. This is item 9 again in terms and conditions on page 9. Prices quoted for equipment do not include installation supervision. West Tech Engineering LLC recommends and will, upon request, make available at West Tech Engineering's current rate an experienced installation supervisor. So there's something again on top that should be already included in their proposal, and not something extra in the terms and conditions, I think.
Yeah, the terms and conditions are as if you were just buying it.
Right.
Okay, whereas the proposal, as I understand it, a little sketchy, is not only to provide it, but to install it.
Install it. So
And
these terms
program
and
it.
And give training
And train.
to where we can carry on, yeah.
So this whole terms and conditions should be removed.
Or you get some additional details.
We will pursue that to get clarity.
Yeah. Hold some money, I'm a spec guy, so.
Well, I think comments are very valid, and Holt, so I want to thank you guys for that. And, you know, so Mike, you understand what you need to do, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, I do.
All right. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Next item is the Carwick dump site. As I've explained, we're going to evaluate the vegetation most likely in May after things begin to grow. We know what kind of condition we're in there. We've got a construction documentation report in your packet from Weaver Consultants. This is sort of informational. This is a type of report that Weaver Consultants Group, who does a lot of solid waste work, prepares for pretty much every landfill cell job that they do CQA work on, which is construction quality control, construction quality assurance. I have reviewed this report and I gave them a couple of minor comments, but I think the report is good to go as final for our file. to provide a good record of what exactly was built at the Carwick dump site. I would like to add that features like the leachate collection system and the lift station and the force main, everything has been working like clockwork since it was completed 2 years ago. So I think it's been a good project for us.
Yeah, Steve, I read through this last night, and I agree, I didn't find anything that was lacking in this report, so I appreciate all the information of all the systems that were installed and that they're working fine.
You've got your PE certification here on the last
Yep.
page of the narrative. I omitted all the photographs and drawings and stuff, but you have, I'm not sure if you have it in the packet. Anybody that wants the full report with all 200
5,000
pages?
pages.
I think it's about 200.
Yeah, this was more than adequate.
Yeah, make it available for you. Okay. Next.
Question, is there anything on Cheney Run, item D was missed?
Oh, I am so sorry about that. I ordered the materials we need to do the zip line to transport the big rocks across the creek. They're in my office. I'm waiting for low flow. I don't really want any water coming over the weir when we go about doing this, so it's going to probably be June or July when we get to this. I believe we've got a stash of rocks in the lagoon storage area that we removed from another project last year.
And Tim Smith will be able to try out that zip line before I get on it, right?
All right, yeah.
If
I'll be the first one to do it for you.
if you so desire, we'll be glad to let you take the ride. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, this north end, yes,
Don't you have to do it before I do it, though?
possibly. We don't want to put Jim Michaels on there first either, I don't think.
Well, then we for sure know it's not going to be okay for the other
Safety,
side.
yeah, that's really, it should be Dan come to think of it, yeah, safety guy.
I can see Dan probably back there shaking his head.
Pulling my hair out.
That is not a real laugh.
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve.
Okay, next project is North End Study. Strand and Associates delivered what I consider to be a rather comprehensive and in some ways inscrutable report.
Yeah,
Well said.
And I only read through it today, and they want to come out and present this to us so that we understand this thing better. From my first read of this thing, we're generally in pretty good shape, and we got enough capacity according to the city's future plan out to 2040. The system is going to operate and behave the same way then as it does today in terms of capacity and utilization. So we're in good shape there. We do have a bit of a bottleneck along 4th Street though, where we actually have 3 sanitary sewers flowing east. We got a 21, a 27, and a 30-inch all along 4th Street going to the 4th Street relief sewer. So we've got a little bit of a weakness there, and I'd like to really have these people explain to us how bad is it and what could we do to remedy it. But it looks very promising. This study looks like it was put together very well, very well.
the only, one question I had, but that's really the only one at this point, is all the charts that they show, the observed flow and the rainfall colors are almost the same, and the average daily flow and model flow colors are almost the same. I can't really distinguish between those two different ones. Is there a way we can have them, the next one, produced with different, more differentiated colors on the model flow and the daily flow?
Are you able to discern colors accurately?
I can see red and blue, that's about it. And I'm not colorblind as far as I know, so.
Okay. Something more contrasty?
Yeah, a little more contrasty with the reds and the blues from each other.
Certainly. So this is a draft. We're going to review this closely, have them present it to us, and then we're going to comment and finalize it.
Okay, which is which?
And then we'll have this available when development comes around saying we want to put a condo building or apartment building here or there.
Great. Okay.
All right, the Long Beach Sewer Project is just kind of a placeholder on this agenda. I think everybody realizes the bids are going to be due Friday, and I don't really have anything more to add on that project. On the Strebel Pond Vegetative Restoration Project, we got a little bit of an updated email from Mike Suter from AES, or RES. They planted the last remaining seeds that apparently was a springtime seed only, as opposed to just before snow fell, when all the other seeds got planted into the killed zone. Mr. Suter is saying that the stuff that was planted just before snowfall is germinating, and that they're going to return in May to continue with the growing season spraying on the Phragmites to keep that in check. And that would be the year after on that as well. Strebel Pond lights, we've already discussed that. Item J, the 300 North and US Highway 421 sewer project. Jerry Sullivan today informed me that D&M excavating is scheduled to begin construction on that job next week, weather permitting. On the energy savings report for the last NIPSCO bill, if you turn to page 2 of the report, for April 2022, the row of numbers that's in red, the unadjusted savings compared to before the energy savings equipment installation was $7,935.96. The adjusted for the new rates that we actually pay, the savings is calculated at $10,698.19. Okay, the next item is I for the blue swag. We have we asked Mr. Doyle for a proposal to design, to survey and investigate and design remedies for actually 4 separate high priority swag sites. The first one being in the alley behind Meyer Glass between Wabash and Franklin Street. The second is 2 sites that actually function as one site, Breckenridge Avenue, Holly Road, and 413 Barker Road. That's a flat topography neighborhood with no curb and gutter, no stormwater drainage. And then 404 Gulfview Road, just I think it's south, I can't remember what direction it is from the golf course, it's south of the golf course, I believe. And Mr. Doyle's proposed cost for those 4 sites, $21,200. I'd like to ask the board's approval to enter into this service agreement with John Doyle and Associates.
Any questions, guys, from commissioners on this proposal?
Just a quick question. These have been on the swag report along with many, many, many others for quite some time.
Yes, and these are 3 that had the highest numeral scores for being the worst offenders.
Okay. And it's time that we act on these sites.
I believe so.
Okay.
We have the money in the stormwater.
Yeah, it was coming next.
The Site 3 and Site 16 shown on his Exhibit A, attachment page 102, that was removed. Is that something that we fixed internally already, or? There's the smallest amount of repair.
Yeah, there's 2 things. One of those property owners remedied their problem already, okay? And then in the one in the middle of the road, the approach that was really contemplated was to put in a dry well in front of the house. And because the problem is that house has the sump pump that pumps all the time, I wanted to have another look at that one.
Thank you. I'm good with it. I move to approve the engineering service agreement with John Doyle for the 3 items.
Do we have to do it separately, Attorney Mark? No.
That's it, one proposal.
Can we take them all at once?
Yeah, there's all one
Yeah, they're
proposal.
all in one contract.
Yep, okay.
I mean, unless you want to break them out.
Oh, let's not do that.
Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
All in favor, Paul Henninger,
Aye.
Tim Warner,
Aye.
Chris Yagowski,
Aye.
and Tim Smith, aye. Motion passes.
All right, John, have fun.
Okay, next item is the repair of the sanitary sewer in the 1100 block of Earl Road. This is a fantastic project for us because the city department that has the block grant money to help, you know, some of the disadvantaged neighborhoods and so forth, has pledged to pay for this entire project, assuming it comes in anywhere near I think it's going to come in.
Sherry Wilson?
Yes.
Wow.
Our problem with this sewer is that the tree roots continually invade the sewer. Right now, we've got it on a twice-a-year cleaning and cutting schedule. And it would be so much nicer if we had a solid pipe that didn't let the tree roots come in. But anyway, this RFQ, this is sort of informational, I guess, because this RFQ is released to contractors for estimating. And we will have, hopefully have quotes for this project at the next month's board meeting. Item N, lateral tap and permit fee for non-profit customers. There's 2 items in your packet. A procedure for the new private sewer connection for the sanitary main line, last revised in February 2014. A residence in city limits is a $50 permit fee. All other buildings inside city limits are a $500 permit fee. Outside city limits, it's $500 and $1,000. I've run into several instances where I have some of these charitable type organizations that have a minor problem with their sewer that really costs us nothing to drive by and inspect a lateral repair. But in some of those cases, that $500 fee is pretty steep from their perspectives. And so item number 2 is a resolution I put together that allows the sanitary district to reduce the permit fee for a tap and lateral permit from $500 to $50.
This isn't for repair, this is for new connections.
This is just inspection, right?
New connections. It's a lateral tap permit.
Jim, actually, every time somebody does a repair, anytime somebody touches their lateral, I mean, my intention was, we charge them a $50 permit fee for a house, or $500 for a commercial property.
Yeah, I'm just saying, this reflects a connection fee, sometimes called tap fee, and it's for new connections. Now, there may be other rules and, you know, project documents you have that say what the price is for going out to inspect when there's a repair, but you have to do that and you can't charge them for it.
It's the same permit and the same fee, whether
Well,
it's...
it can't be the same permit. The connection permit says you can connect the sewer, whereas the repair is that it gets repaired. Yeah, the property is repaired.
We do use the same permit application and
That you do doesn't mean you should.
Okay. Maybe I should have another look at this one, maybe for next month.
All right.
Yeah, because I gathered this was for repairs of laterals, not installing a new lateral.
That was my intention, Tim.
Okay. Yeah,
And if the board wants to do, you
I would
can,
like it to cover both, honestly.
I'm gonna say you could vote to approve, and this could be produced next. And I would also point out, at least the way it was written, or the draft was written by Steve, was for 501c3 organizations. There are a lot of nonprofits that are not 501c3s.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what the intent, you mentioned nonprofit now. I mean, nonprofit covers very broad, everything from, government to churches to schools to, 501c3 organizations. Anybody can form a nonprofit.
I hope I'm not mistaken, but from the reading I did do, many or most churches specifically are organized that way.
They can be, right, 501c3. But there's a lot of other things that are also, I think your Franciscan health system is a 501c3.
So,
It's, charitable
under
organization.
the board, do we want to pass
They're
this
considered.
and then have Steve, next time these issues come up, split them, or rather than a repair or a new line, or what do you guys want to do?
What you do when you go out and look, whether it's new or repair, isn't much different, right?
It's the same.
You're just looking at how the connection is made to our sewer and before they backfill, based on what I read in here.
Yeah.
So it would be the same.
Before they go out, they review the proposed connection, and the connection has to be consistent with district standards,
Right.
not just anybody's, throwing something in, so. There's some
Otherwise,
work
to
to
hit
get
it.
There's some work
before they backfill, right?
Yes.
Right, and then you go out to look to make sure they put it in the way they got permitted to put it in.
So whether it's repair or new, it doesn't differentiate how we look at it.
No.
So I'm fine with this number, and if we need to change the way we discuss the not-for-profit, then maybe we can do that in the future to clarify if there's any issues in the future. Does that make sense, Mr. Smith?
It does. I think Steve wants to get this project moving, so I really don't want to delay it until next month. I mean, Jim, I appreciate what you're telling us, but I guess let's go ahead and, get this moving, and then Steve, if you can differentiate between the nonprofit status, can we just let him do that? I mean, you have to call someone on that, or just to confirm that it's a 501c3?
Yeah, that was my intent. It'd be charitable organizations organized under 501c3.
Yeah. But you can call them and confirm it, right?
Yes, sir. I might even be able to look it up on the Secretary of State's.
No,
Yeah.
Secretary of State is nonprofit. That's not 501c3. 501c3
That's internal
is the
revenue.
internal revenue. But there is a site, I don't know how to access it, but I'm sure Scott does, that you can look at federally as to whether it's a 501c3 organized. And of course, the organization itself, should produce a copy of their certification or their approval from the IRS for being a 501c3.
So we just need a tax exempt certificate.
I think it might be valuable to approve this this evening, and then if I need to make changes, bring another one back next
Right.
Steve,
month.
that's what I was going to say. Just go ahead, if the commissioners, like Tim Warner said, that we're okay with it, then Cole, are you okay with it?
You mentioned a second ago that there was a discrepancy on the application.
We use the same permit application form for a repair or a new connection.
And you seem to think, Mr. Meyer, that that was inappropriate.
Correct. And
And
permit
so-
to connect, a new connection carries a whole broad spectrum of different legal considerations. Do you have the capacity to handle the new connection? Is one of them that you do not encounter at all with a repair. And it's actually very significant, and you're supposed to keep a record of the fact that somebody made a determination that there was adequate capacity, such as shown through our Strand report, to accept a new connection. Okay, and whereas a repair is, they're just,
So my question is, do we need to amend the application or get a separate?
There's probably a way to amend it to put repair
Or
slash.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
checkbox on the permit
Right.
itself.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I mean,
New.
I think it may have that already.
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just,
I think it does.
Okay.
okay.
Perhaps I should have brought one with me.
I mean, as long as legally we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it just needs to be
and
distinguished.
operationally We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. That was my concern.
And I guess my question, Steve, why were these two combined? Why wouldn't they be a separate permit, with, a repair versus new construction? Because like Jim was saying, those flow rates, I mean, we just talked about the North End study, and I know that's kind of a different example, but, I mean, we need to know what those flow rates are for these new, lines.
No, yes, sir. I will confess that this system of permitting and applications was in place before I came to the sanitary district.
Okay.
I believe Mr. Cuss set this up in 2013.
Okay. Well, I think we want to go a different direction as a board. We want to make sure that these two applications are separate, please. So I don't know if you have to design a new form or there's a different signature line with the information on a new line on the same application or what. I mean, we need to look and clarify it, please. So, we're comfortable with it.
So Jim, this particular resolution to me is just talking about the fees for the permit, not the permit way itself.
The way it's worded is for the connection permit. So that there is a tap fee, which is what, laymen call
And
it.
it's really not a tap fee for repair.
No,
Generally,
it's not
because
at all.
already done, right?
It's an inspection fee
Okay.
for repair.
So for example, if a brand new church was building out of the city limits, this would differentiate between $50 and $500. Is that what you're saying?
But they're inside the city limits, I think.
My intent was to focus on charitable organizations in the city.
Just lower the fee for them.
Yeah.
And that seems right.
Question being though, but I mean, if it's a brand new charitable organization, they're building a brand new church and they're not in the 501c3, they have not in the application process or what have you, that wouldn't count because they have to fulfill that 501c
They have to be
status.
inside the city and they have to be a 501c3 to meet this resolution.
And what prompted me to bring this up is a couple of different very old churches being used for a couple different kind of things have faced this steep permitting fee for a repair, essentially. Okay. I was trying to do a little something to help
And it
them.
seems
But
unreasonable.
if they don't have that status, it doesn't count. So if they're indigent kind of church, or if they're a low-income church, and they
And the
can't
basis
fill
for
that.
a connection fee is considered a capital charge. Because you're supposed to be, in addition, paying for your time to go out and review the proposed plan. It's also, in theory, a proportionate share of that connection's payment for the existing capital that the sanitary district already owned. Whereas a repair is, you review the proposed plan and you go out and inspect. It has nothing, it's an operational charge, it's not a capital charge. It's, we're getting into the weeds here. Trying wording. I would suggest that if all you're going to do for a repair is drive by, it doesn't really make any difference. I mean, it's up to you guys, but whether it's a house or church or whatever, the fee shouldn't be $1,000 because it's an operational charge when it's a repair, and you're supposed to make those charges reasonably close to what it's actually costing you to provide the service. Cost of service.
So this is reasonable.
And if they're the same amount of time and effort,
And if this doesn't work, we can change it and fix it.
of course.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's what I was thinking, is just letting Steve guys move forward with this, and then, maybe we confirm that they're a 501c3, and then, work with Jim or whomever, Steve, and maybe these two need to be split.
Separate permits, yep.
Yeah. You should-
So, I mean, that's the way I would go with it, and that would be my recommendation to the board right now.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, do we need a motion on this, on resolution 1451-22, revision of lateral tap permit fee for not-for-profit entities?
Do we need or do you want one? Is that what you're asking?
I would like a motion.
Okay.
I was actually asking, but I just made the decision to go ahead and ask.
Very good. All right, in that case, then I will move to approve resolution number 1541-22.
And I'll second it.
Great. All in favor, Holt Edinger,
Aye.
Tim Warner,
Aye.
Chris Yagowski,
Aye.
and Smith, aye, motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, keep going, Steve.
Item O, notice of intent for issuance of construction permits. Our current authority to write construction permits for sanitary sewers expired on February 11th of this year. So right now, we don't actually have permitted authority to write permits for that type of work. We do one or two of these a year, okay? So it's not super pressing or urgent, but it's something we need to have in our toolkit to be able to do. Jeff Wright was our PE named for the state to give us approval to write construction permits last year. And we won't really have him. It doesn't seem any longer, and I'm hoping to get y'all's thoughts on what PE we might be able to designate for the state application.
Just to cut to the chase, I've already talked to Brad and advised him that part of it being the city engineer, number one, it has to be a PE, it can't just be an engineer. And number two, it's supposed to be somebody who represents the city, which would typically be the city engineer, which Brad is more or less, as I understand it, holding down that position at this point.
Brad, more or less?
That's right. Some days more, some days less.
And the permit, the self-permitting allows the district to issue construction permits for new sewer projects, so that you don't have to go through all of the administrative process of getting that permit from IDEM. And typically the district can turn it around in probably 30 days or less. IDEM, you're looking at probably 120 days. So there's a significant benefit to contractors and developers to have the district be able to, review an issue. And we want things built the way, we want them built, not necessarily just because the IDEM approves it doesn't mean that we would approve it. So this allows the district to exercise its rights to implement its standards. Which are typically the 10 state standards. I mean, there's nothing crazy about them.
So basically, we just need this sheet revised with Brad as the engineer and
Yes, sir.
Michael as the,
Right.
okay, and then Tim Smith to sign it. Okay. Do we need to take action on that, or you just do it?
I think we can just take care
Yeah,
of
just
it.
do it. You don't have to take action.
Just for information, all right.
Right.
Thank you, let's stick your neck out a little more.
Congratulations.
Thank you for following up, saying that. The ability.
Okay, item P, proposed land.
I was with this on one.
Proposed land donate. Are you a PE, by the way?
Yes.
You were.
Yes, I've been in Indiana for a very long time.
Item P, this proposed land donation, this was just a bolt from the blue. It was early, I think it was early last week. I got a call from a very nice lady who claimed to own quite a bit of land in Michigan City, and this one she considered useless to her and her family trust, and all she's doing is paying taxes on it right now. It's landlocked. There's no street access.
I was just gonna say, well, if she has an engine on a railroad, she can't really get to it.
And the interesting thing about this is the parcel directly to the left of the northern triangle already belongs to the sanitary district. So this could be viewed as an extension of a property that we already own. Yesterday I took a ride out in the field with Jim Michaels and Tony Basil, and we looked this thing over, and I didn't see any substantial defects with the land. The southern triangle is, for the most part, very low ground, and I don't know how much use it would be for us. Right now it's all forested, and there's really nothing there. And that would probably stay that way for a long time.
Steve, is that the old abandoned Monon tracks that run past Dribble Pond further to the south? On the right side of the bigger triangle?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Thanks. I don't know what it is.
The property does not appear to be defective. The northern triangle, it has much more upland with frontage along Hitchcock Street, and I think it could have some value for us in the future.
Okay.
So based on what I saw, I see no reason to not notify this person that yes, we're interested, but then there's a lot of machinations that I suppose would need to happen. I indicated to her that I would bring this to the board, I would look at it and bring this to the board. Right now, I think it's a good idea.
So Jim, what's the procedures on this for us?
Is it a true donation, meaning zero cost?
That's the word she used.
Okay, you want to verify, nail that down.
Yeah.
Because I don't care. It's not going to be a lot of money one way or the other, but legally speaking, there are different steps you have to go through if you want to have,
You
if
have to get it raised and everything else, right?
Yeah, correct. You mentioned that there's frontage on Hitchcock for the North Triangle.
Yeah,
If it connects to
that's
ours.
because
Oh, if it connects
the
to
lot
ours.
west of-
Okay, it itself doesn't have frontage. but
No, this lot is ours
It's
already.
adjacent to our lot that does.
Yes, exactly.
Well, it's different than saying it's not frontage.
Words of
Yeah, I don't know any reason why you wouldn't. I don't know if there's any maintenance required. No, I mean,
It is
It is.
presently all forested. We already cut the grass along the Monon right of way because that's alongside Streeble Arm Ditch. So we're already maintaining that bit. But I don't foresee really any, unless we develop one or both of them, any maintenance going forward.
Because it's just an empty plot of land for right now, right?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll reach out to that property owner.
Okay.
Just a couple reports. Item Q is the industrial pre-treat first quarter summary. All the industries were in compliance in the first quarter. That was submitted to the state on April 20th. It was due on April 28th.
The missing permits or businesses no longer operating, is that what that represents on 3, 04, 07, 8, and 9?
We used to have industries with those permit numbers.
Okay, now they're no longer operating. Thanks.
Okay, I've got the March land application report in here. This is the first time I've done one of these. And I think it's got all of the elements, and it's prepared the same way as the reports that Michael Cuss submitted to the state. I submitted this to the state today. It's due tomorrow. I will point.
Gus would be proud.
This is great report. I liked all the maps in here.
Yeah.
I don't have an idea where it is there west of across.
All of that stuff is required, by the way, under a permit. Our land application permit is separate from our NIPD's permit. But we shipped 692 wet tons in March, and I'll point out that we did over 500 more in April, so for the springtime pre-planting season, we delivered 1,229 wet tons of biosolids to this farm. And we have lots of storage in the lagoons area now as a result.
That's great.
Steve, if I may chime in, since we're speaking of reports, in respect to our water reclamation treatment facility, that we continue to put out good water, 98.5% removal of organic strength BOD 98% removal of suspended solids, 99.9% of ammonia removal, and 81% removal of phosphorus, which all is outperforming the requirements of the permit. Also, to mention that we conducted our first semi-annual whole effluent toxicity sampling, and that passed with no issues. Additionally, just to inform the board that we did initiate disinfection of our final effluent consistent with our requirements before April 1st. So we're ready for the beach combers.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item S, Refuse Department. I'm glad to report that in March and early April here, we were able to staff up with 3 new Class A drivers to replace people who are retiring. And so I think that's been a good upgrade for the Refuse Department. We're actually fully up to strength in the Refuse Department now.
That's great. That's really good.
Finding CDL licenses is tough.
Yes, it is.
Wow.
Yeah, I was just thinking of that, Steve. We've had so many discussion on those CDL licenses, so that's good.
Excellent.
All right, the South Shore Double Track project, I got really nothing new to provide you on that. The same on the item U, US 35 and 20 sewer extension project. Mr. Meyer, have you heard anything on that?
No, I haven't heard anything on it at all. This is the newly annexed area. It's down by 30 Michigan Boulevard and 20, both sides. And when it was annexed, the city had basically 3 years to get the utilities installed. And that time period runs out on 12/31/22. So there's been a lot of talk about getting it started. The district, it's several $1 million. The sanitary district does not have the funds available. We've been meeting with the mayor and others about how to fund the installation of this. The steps are being taken right now to create a TIF district, or more accurately, to add this to the East TIF district. I think it's called Southeast TIF district. There's a TIF district already out there to the old boundaries. They're going to stretch that all the way across the new area. And then once that happens, there's more options for financing the project with TIF funds, possibly. But that's what that's about. No, there's a preliminary engineering report completed, I don't know, many months ago. And we're just waiting to come up with a source of financing.
It's a $3 million project. At least it was.
Yeah, it's probably more now.
Yeah, it's a little more now.
Mr. Meyer, I'm going to let you address item V, the Renaissance Academy sanitary sewer acceptance.
Yes.
And then item W, the new airport runway sanitary sewer project. I have nothing new to report on that. As far as I know, the FAA is still not allocated funds for the runway extension across Highway 20, over Highway 20. Item 11, you have staff reports. Although I will admit that you have staff reports of everybody but me.
Busy month, huh?
It's been a little busy, yes.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Steve. Really appreciate it. And, you guys can look at the staff report. I don't know if you have any questions or not, but, if you don't, then we'll go ahead and move on. Jim, I'm going to turn it over to you.
The first thing I'll mention is, as Steve mentioned, the Renaissance sewer transfer. those of you who've been on the board a while have been hearing about this for well over a year, and I don't want to get into how long and why. But, you know, we believe it's resolved. All of the issues, the last one was making sure that the LaPorte County Regional Sewer and Water District approved the transfer and approved a area that could subsequently be tied into the sewer. Now, what I brought with me today, and I've got enough copies for everybody, I don't expect any of you to memorize it, maybe not even read it. The contract itself is very standard insofar as it talks about the fact that the Renaissance Academy installed this sewer quite a few years ago, and that they don't want to have to operate it anymore. Right now, they are the only customer user of that sewer. If they were going to try to allow other people to tie in, they would have to become what's called a public sewer, and then they would have to get an NPDES permit from IDEM to operate a public sewer. Not to mention, the school really doesn't have any capability of maintaining or repairing, if it was needed, a sewer. So they're asking the sanitary district to accept the sewer. You may recall this several months ago, the sanitary district indicated, you guys, the board voted to approve moving ahead as long as the sewer was determined to be in good shape, met the standards of the sanitary district. It was inspected, it was videoed, there was the air relief valves had to be replaced. There were some other things that needed to be done. I think the total cost to the school was somewhere in the neighborhood of $33,000. It was approved by the sanitary district staff to meet its standards at this point.
It was pressure tested too.
It was pressure tested. Anyway, one of the purposes of doing this, like I said, they wanted to get more customers, is the East Side Meat Market or Produce wants to tie in. So that kind of was what triggered the starting of this discussion. And that owner of that location also wants to, down the road, develop some housing behind or near the market. So there's some, you see discussion in here about how many EDUs the system, EDU stands for equivalent dwelling units, which is under IDEM regulations of 310 gallons per day. So the school is reserving a certain amount of capacity in their, in the sewers that they can use now and down the road. The school has entered into an agreement with the East Side grocer guy, or East Side Market, for allowing that to have a certain amount of capacity. There will be still substantial capacity left for anybody else who wants to tie in down the road. So that's all the things that are discussed in here. It's not very clear. The exhibits have maps, various maps, and it has the actual record drawings of the original sewer installation. There's a drawing of the East Side fresh meat and produce location, along with what is nowhere, it hasn't, other than in this picture, has not been drawn anywhere, proposed potential development by the owner. The next page, which doesn't turn out when you scan, when I scan anyway, actually has a dark black outline of the area that would be served by the sewer.
We got a copy of this prior, in the last meeting or meeting before that.
Yeah, it's been around, and the original, which Scott has, you can see it real better, but it's just a line that shows.
I remember showing the jogs up and down.
Right.
in between properties.
And then there's what they call a certificate. Part of the agreement is that down the road, and this is standard for when private developers put in sewers and pay for it themselves, that down the road, if we take the sewer over and then people tie in to that sewer down the road, we not only collect for our connection fee, but we collect a fee for the proportionate share of that new customer's use of that sewer, EDUs, how many EDUs, and that's what those, but it has to be based on a recorded certification of project costs, which is the last few pages of the document. And as prepared by Gary DeRadke Engineers.
Are these termed recapture agreements in Indiana?
Yes.
That's what they did in Illinois.
Yeah, correct. And they're provided for by statute. I mean, there's nothing, very standard. The issues have been that there's so many parties involved that getting everybody on the same page and getting all the lawyers to agree on exactly the same words is more.
It's almost as much a challenge as getting engineers to agree.
So, I'm not going to ask you to vote on it tonight. Just, if you want to read it. If you don't. But what I'm going to do is ask at the special meeting on Friday for the board to vote to approve it, so we can, continue to move ahead. The East Side Grocer owner is looking to get started with he has to install a sewer under 20 to get to this sewer. So, and what will happen is once that gets completed, it'll have to meet our design specifications, and then we'll take that one over as well. Under a kind of similar situation, except he's going to be more than likely the only customer there for a long time because he's going to have this proposed development. Anyway, this.
Okay. Anything else, Jim?
No, I'll answer any questions if anybody has any.
Any questions right now, guys? I mean, I think we can bring it up for discussion on Friday after we've had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, that's why I know it's multiple pages.
Okay. All right. So can I get a motion to approve and allow revenue and tax levy claims to be paid?
So moved.
I'll second. Second.
All in favor of Holt Ager?
Aye.
Tim Warner?
Aye.
Chris Yagowski?
Aye.
Tim Smith, aye. Motion approved. The old business? The old business? The old business? Any new business?
New business. I would just like to let everyone know that the Michigan City Tree Board at the first Farmers Market on May 7th, Saturday, will be giving away 700 tree saplings of various species. White pine, red oak, river birch, bald cypress, redbud, gray dogwood, and pawpaw trees will be available. We gave away about 100 at the library's Earth Day last Saturday, and we'll be at the first Farmers Market on the 7th to give away the rest. So anybody in the city, anywhere outside the city who wants some free trees, they're saplings from the Indiana Tree Nursery down at Jasper Pulaski. So come and get them on Saturday, May 7th at the first Farmers Market.
Well, that's great.
How tall are those?
Right now they're probably about 2 feet tall. And then the root ball below. Yeah, I was surprised how big they were this year. Last year they were 1.5 feet, maybe max. But
wow.
They got a little bigger this year. The red oak are about 3 feet tall. So
Can you save me some pawpaws?
those are the first things going. We're probably more than halfway through those already from last year.
Wow.
So yeah, so everyone come and get a tree on Saturday the 7th. Or more.
Any other new business?
Yes, sir. This board is currently without a vice president, technically, and I would move, it's obvious that we have a member here who is more than qualified and
Thank you.
And with his leadership to accept the responsibilities of vice president of this board. And I would move that Mr. Warner be instilled as, or be voted upon as vice president of this board.
Thank you, Holt, and I will, can we get a second on that, please?
Second.
All in favor? Tim, I'm assuming you're going to accept it if we vote you in.
I will accept if you vote me in, yeah. Thank you.
All in favor, Holt, Edinger?
Aye.
Tim? Warner?
Aye. Yeah.
Tim Smith, aye. We have a new vice president. Welcome.
You have to show up all the time now, Tim.
I know you do.
One or the other. Now we
It'll be easy for
All right.
everybody. Tim, what do you say?
He'll be here.
I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn, please.
I got one question quickly, if you don't mind. I just thanks everybody for welcoming me aboard quickly. That was very nice of everyone. I appreciate that. Secondary, I have no idea what a blue slag is, but I'd like to ask Steve Stafford if I could get like a tour of the plant and the locations so I can kind of familiarize myself with what you really do. I've read through all this, but it doesn't touch
We're
up.
going to be giving a tour to the Northwest Indiana Operators Association members tomorrow at lunchtime. There'll be pizza at Krieger's if you want to come and get pizza and then go on the tour.
Sure, that'd be great. Just familiarize myself with the area, the buildings, et cetera, so that'd be nice.
SWAG stands for Stormwater Advisory Group.
Got it.
What's the blue? I've never
That's
understood the
just,
blue.
was just clean water. Clean water.
Okay.
So, yeah, just swag. I was unable to attend today, but I tried to attend as well.
They did it, it was canceled.
Oh, was it?
It was postponed.
I know it's there. I saw one for next week, or May.
I know you guys are having a little inclement weather there, so I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I'll put my sunglasses on here in a minute.
What do you mean? It was 80 degrees last Saturday.
I know, I was working in the yard. All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim, we can't hear you. There's something wrong.
Along with formally welcoming Mr. Yagelski, Commissioner Yagelski, I would recommend, and I recall when I was new to the board, that the letters that were used to abbreviate many, many, many things were quite hard to understand, along with your swag. And there were many of them used today, which, Steve, you did clarify whether you were aware of it or not, but the rest of us, to help Chris become more familiar with what is quite secondary to many of you, to maybe give the long, full version of what a letter acronym means, to help become familiar. It was, I stayed after and asked Jim and many of other people that were on the board, what did that mean? At the end of some of my first 3 or 4 or 5 meetings, that became very beneficial. So I recommend that out of all of us, if we could increase our awareness, not just in welcoming you, but helping you. So again, welcome.
Okay, are we ready for the motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Holt. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Holt, Edinger?
Aye.
Tim Warner?
Aye.
Chris Yagelski?
Aye.
And Tim Smith, aye. And I want to thank our staff for setting the Zoom call up so I could participate today. So thank you guys for doing that. So we stand adjourned, gentlemen. Thank you.
Keep warm there, Tim.
Enjoy.